The New York Rangers forget to play defense, but they do bring the offensive fireworks in a 6-2 home victory against the Columbus Blue Jackets as 6 different Rangers score a goal. Igor Shesterkin continues his outstanding play down the home stretch of the regular season, and the Rangers look like they're ready for Thursday's big-time game on the road against the New Jersey Devils, a game that could have very important playoff implications. All this and much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 795 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And so, yeah, this game, to me, classic example, and we've seen this a couple of times from the Rangers this season. There have been times where they play down to the competition, certainly in the fall when the Rangers were really going through their trials and tribulations, lost a good amount of games to some teams that, I mean, no disrespect intended, but teams that are at or near the very bottom of the NHL standings. And I think it was a little bit more of the same in this one. Obviously, look, the Rangers end up winning this game by 4 goals. They pull away late. Like I said, they got the offensive fireworks, so that was nice to see a bunch of different players contributing. Igor Shesterkin was awesome, but classic case of a team playing just as well as it needs to, not as well as it is capable of, as the Rangers have been doing recently. The Rangers have been playing at their pretty much absolute best the last handful of games before this one here. But regardless, they got the win. They got the 2 points. They are now 9-1-1 in their last 11 games. I mean, I can't be too mad about that. The Rangers are rolling right now and playing some of their best hockey of the season as the Stanley Cup Playoffs are fast approaching here. And of course, they also clinched playoffs on Monday night as the result of some other things that happened around the league. The Rangers now one of only 5 teams in the NHL to have a playoff spot locked up. But I would like to kind of begin today's episode by proposing a question to New York Ranger fans, and that is it possible to have a 3-0 lead 8 minutes into a game while playing what was largely bad hockey? Apparently, the answer to that question is yes, because that's pretty much what we saw from the New York Rangers in this game last night. The first 5 minutes of this contest, the Rangers were basically sleepwalking. Igor Shesterkin, he was on point all night. Another fantastic performance by Igor Shesterkin, rightfully the top star of the game, and we're going to break down his performance in greater detail in just a little bit here, but he made a lot of his best saves right there in the first 5 minutes, denying the Blue Jackets left and right, and then the next thing you know, the Rangers end up scoring 3 goals in the span of just 2 minutes and 37 seconds. You got Chytil, Tarasenko, and Patrick Kane all lighting the lamp for the Rangers, and just like that, they're up 3-0. The goals are nice and everything, and it's great to see so many different players contributing. To just kind of focus in on these 3 for a second here. Chytil, obviously, he's broken out of his recent scoring slump. He's got 3 goals in his past 5 games. Vladimir Tarasenko continues to fit like a glove with the New York Rangers, and with Patrick Kane, we talked about in our last episode, we want him to be a little bit more assertive. We saw that here. He was calling for the puck on this play, had his stick in the air. You had Harper to Kane. See if I can remember all this. To Trocheck, to Kreider, to Kane. And then, Kane scores on the short side of the net, and just like that, the Rangers are up 3-0. But like I said, the Rangers, for the most part, just were not defending very well in this situation. But I do want to break down these goals that the Rangers scored here in a little bit greater detail. So, again, we'll get to the Igor saves in just a little bit when we talk about him. But Igor makes a bunch of, really nice saves. And then Chytil's goal occurs on a rebound. So, after an awful first 5 minutes to this game, the Rangers have a 1-0 lead. On the Chytil goal, you had a shot by Adam Fox that was knocked down. Lafreniere tried to bury it. He was there in the crease kind of fighting for it. Got his stick on it. Was not able to, put it into the net. But Chytil got there instead, and he buried it from the doorstep. And, I know that certain Ranger fans are a little concerned that, maybe there's a little too much flash and not enough grit with this Ranger team. I don't really agree with that. The Rangers are a very talented team. I think they have more grit, more toughness, and more physicality than they are often given credit for. But one point that, certain Ranger fans have been making is that this is a team that needs to find a way to score a couple more greasy goals, some of those stuff-in goals, or, a situation where maybe the goalie is screened and you score that way, rebound goals, some of the dirty goals. You guys know what I'm talking about. And I feel like the kid line has done that at times this season where, obviously you've got these 3 former first-round draft picks, and, you expect them to be these ultra-skilled players and score a lot of the highlight reel goals, but they've scored a couple of goals like this as well, where they're kind of fighting for the puck in the crease. It was nice to see Filip Chytil collect this rebound, put it into the net, give the Rangers a 1-0 lead. And something else I also got to point out after this goal was scored here, the Rangers go to their fourth line on the shift that immediately follows a goal. Longtime listeners, you guys know I'm looking for some stability and just some better play for the Rangers on the shift that immediately follows a goal. Fourth line did a great job here, got the puck deep, went to work on the boards, and Vesey actually had a chance from the doorstep there. Nice save was made to prevent him from scoring and making it 2-0. But Jimmy Vesey's due for a goal, and in general, I do like that Ranger fourth line being out there on the goal, or on the shift that immediately follows a goal. And not too long after this, make it 2-0 Rangers, once again being soundly outplayed in the first 5 minutes, but now they're up 2-0. You've got Braden Schneider with a point, a shot from the point, rather, that gets deflected home by Vladimir Tarasenko. It all started with a pass from Harper along the boards. The Jackets deflected his pass, but it went right to Braden Schneider on the other side. And then Schneider, he had his eyes on Tarasenko the whole time. Tarasenko was slowly approaching the net, and Schneider found him, put the puck toward Tarasenko. Tarasenko at the redirection goes into the net. Just like that, the Rangers are up 2-0. And good stuff there. Tarasenko on the bench, he had Tyler Mott laughing about something. He was covering his mouth, to kind of, probably protect whatever he was saying. And, I just thought that was kind of a cool moment in the game. And again, there were a couple, I guess it was just that one comment on YouTube, but, somebody suggested that the Rangers don't play as a team. And I don't think anything could be further from the truth. These players are family. They've got each other's back, and I think that's going to bode well for them come playoff time, just as it did last year when the Rangers made their run to the Eastern Conference Final. Then the Rangers make it 3-0. You've got Ben Harper with a big hit in the attacking zone. Patrick Kane picks up the puck for the Rangers, and he goes to the net, puts a backhand off the post. So he misses a goal by just a couple of inches there. Puck comes out of the zone, but then Ben Harper with a long pass out of the neutral zone. It goes to Kane, to Kreider, to Trocheck, back to Kane. So a lot of quick passing by the Rangers. They gain the entry, and sneaky shot by Patrick Kane here. He was going in up the left side, and he scored on the short side of the net. There wasn't a lot of an opening there, but when you're as talented as Patrick Kane, you can score on a play like this. He makes it 3-0. We saw Artemi Panarin a little bit later in this game do kind of the same thing, where there wasn't a lot of room on the short side of the net, but, Panarin picked his spot and scored. I believe that was the goal that made it 4-2 in favor of the New York Rangers at that point. But, yeah, Kane, he had his stick in the air. He was calling for the puck on this play. And once again, in our last episode, we talked about wanting him to be more assertive, and I think we saw a couple examples of that in this game here. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to shift our attention to Igor Shesterkin, who was easily the best player on the ice in this game. Fantastic performance by Igor. Really kept the Rangers in the game early and kept the Rangers from blowing a 3-0 lead against the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets, to their credit, they kept fighting despite obviously not having a good season. And Igor made some saves that prevented the Rangers from, losing a game where they were winning 3-0 at home against a team with one of the worst records in the NHL. So we're going to get to all that good stuff in just a second. But first, we got to let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bars so good? For starters, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros, and what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now, you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right, head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank us later. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So like I said just a second ago, gotta shift our attention here to Igor Shesterkin. He comes up big for the Rangers, the easily determined number one star of the game. Honestly, you could show this game to somebody that's never watched hockey in their life, and they'd be able to tell you who the best player on the ice was. It was Igor Shesterkin. He stops 28 of 30 shots, and I wanted to really focus in on what he did in the early portions of this game, namely the first 5 minutes when the Rangers were, like I said, asleep at the wheel. Just didn't seem like they were ready to go, maybe a little bit underwhelmed against the opponent, but bottom line, you got to come out ready to play no matter who the opponent is. But yeah, first 5 minutes of this game, Igor was awesome. I mean, he was awesome in the first 30 seconds of this game. It was just way too easy for the Jackets to get rushes into the Rangers zone and get to the front of the net. A lot of Rangers just kind of reaching for the puck here instead of taking the body. They had a rush early where Igor had to make a nice save, reacted, moved quickly to his left to deny somebody on the doorstep there. The Jackets had a 3-on-1 immediately after this. Yeah, another save by Igor Shesterkin on the 3-and-1. And the Rangers just looked really, really slow at the start of this game. Then, probably the best save that he made in this entire sequence, he got a pass from behind the net in front to Johnny Gaudreau. This happened after a giveaway by Jacob Trouba behind the net. And Gaudreau had the chance from the doorstep. Just a ridiculous glove save by Igor Shesterkin. I wrote into my notes at this point, wake up. The Rangers need to wake up and start playing some hockey here. There was an instance not too long after this where Mika tried to clear the puck out of the Rangers zone, and it got knocked down and intercepted. Mika did have a nice recovery on this. He broke up the play before the Jackets had a chance to turn it into a really good scoring chance there. But the bottom line, Rangers need to start games much, much better than this. You're not going to get away with this in the playoffs, and I don't even think you're going to get away with it on Thursday against the Devils or on Friday against a desperate Buffalo Sabres team, which I believe is still somewhat within striking distance of a playoff berth. They're going to have to finish really strong to have a chance. But bottom line, you're not going to get away with this against most teams. The Rangers almost didn't get away with this against the Blue Jackets because the Jackets, despite being down 3-0, came back, made a game of it, got it down to 3-2. Rangers pulled away after that. But obviously the Rangers going forward, it goes without saying, they're going to need a better start than this, and hopefully it's a lesson learned, and that's something that they correct going forward the rest of the regular season and also in the playoffs. And then as far as the goals that the Jackets scored against Igor Shesterkin, so they score on the power play thanks to an unnecessary penalty by Chris Kreider. We're going to talk about some of the bad penalties that the Rangers took in this game a little bit later as well. This is an offensive zone penalty. Igor made a really nice point-blank stop off the face-off against Jenner, but then the Rangers give up the power play goal. Marchenko scores off the bottom of Igor Shesterkin's glove, goes in the net 3-1 at that point. And just another instance where the front of the Ranger net was wide open. Igor had an awesome point-blank stop before that, but then Miller turned over the puck behind the Ranger net, leads to another great chance for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that obviously was unfortunate. Then, near the end of the period, the Jackets actually cut the lead down to 3-2. You've got Jenner with a pass out of the corner to Gaudreau. Gaudreau's in front of the net again. He roofs it, 3-2. Rangers were just getting outworked here. Gaudreau was defending Jenner along the boards, but Jenner got away from him and was able to make a pass. Gaudreau then was in front of the Ranger net. There were a lot of Rangers there, but a lot of guys, once again, just kind of reaching for the puck and just not being aggressive enough and making it way too easy for the Jackets to get into some of those high-danger scoring areas on the ice. So, not a great start here, even though the Rangers are up 3-2 even at this point. Gerard Gallant was not happy after the Rangers gave up the second goal because he expects more of them, and I think all of us do as well. They have to defend a little bit better than they did here. And look, easy for me to say sitting here at my laptop, sitting in my desk here, on my chair. But yeah, I think it's fair to expect better starts from this New York Ranger team at this point. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to address a couple of the bad penalties that the Rangers took in this game. I also want to talk a little bit about the matchup against the New Jersey Devils, which will obviously be happening on Thursday night. Huge game there. We've also got an interesting quote from Patrick Kane after this game. I want to talk about that as well, and we will do all that good stuff in just a second. But first, gotta let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just go to fanduel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to fanduel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, let's go ahead, keep everything rolling here. I did want to address a couple of the bad penalties that the Rangers took in this game, and it's something that obviously we hope they clean up between now and the playoffs because, again, the Rangers did a lot of things in this game, whether it's not defending the net, allowing too many odd man rushes, especially in the early goings, over-relying on their goalie, and what we're about to talk about right now, taking bad penalties. There was too much of all that you just can't survive that in a playoff series against a good team. A better team than the Blue Jackets is probably going to make you pay for this. I mean, the Jackets at time did make the Rangers pay for this because they were down 3-0. They got back into the game at 3-2, and it wasn't until, getting pretty late in this game when the Rangers finally started to pull away. But like I said, bad penalties, and to just kind of break down where they all occurred, 2 of them were in the offensive zone. 1 was in the neutral zone and about a foot away from being in the offensive zone, and only 1 was in the defensive zone. None of them were at all necessary, and I think all 4 of them, at least to a degree, you could chalk it up to just either being undisciplined or maybe even a little bit lazy on a couple of these penalties as well. But to kind of just break them all down here and kind of illustrate my point, the first period, you've got Kreider with an interference penalty in the offensive zone. He basically just hit his guy late. The player had the puck not too long before this, and of course, if a player moves the puck, you are allowed to finish your check, but this is a little bit egregious by Kreider here. You don't get, 3 seconds or so to finish your check. It has to be, soon after the player gets rid of the puck. The officials determined that enough time had gone by that Kreider shouldn't have been finishing his check here, and as a result, this is not considered finishing your check. This is considered interference, and Kreider goes to the box for that. That was the power play, the one power play that the Jackets scored on in this game, and that kind of got them back into the game a little bit. Second period, Vincent Trocheck with a trip at the Columbus blue line. I believe it was Gaudreau was coming out of the Columbus zone and kind of, weave to his left, and Trocheck just takes him down. I mean, clear as day, it's a penalty, and he heads to the box at that point. And as I mentioned in a recent episode, I love Vincent Trocheck's game, and that was the case before he ever even came to the Rangers. He was somebody that I was kind of hoping the Rangers would target in free agency, especially if they did not bring back either Kopp or Strome, which obviously they did not. And I think Trocheck has proven to be the superior option to those two. He does a little bit of everything to help you. He hustles, he's gritty, good defensive forward, awesome on faceoffs. He can kill penalties. He can help you on your power play. He does it all. Great player, but he has this one Achilles heel of taking these unnecessary, undisciplined, and I'm just going to say it, stupid penalties. And it's one of those things where he's got to reel this in and he's got to get this under control before the playoffs start. You can't keep doing this. You can't take penalties left and right against any team that's in the playoffs, in a playoff series, and you can't do it against a Devils team, which has a lot of, really good offensive players. The last thing you want to be doing is just gift wrapping them power play opportunities in a playoff series. And of course, it's not a guarantee that the Rangers are going to play the Devils in the playoffs, but it's kind of looking that way right now, that's probably going to be the 2-3 matchup in the Metro. And regardless of who they play, that's going to be the case. You can't be gift wrapping power play opportunities left and right. And this just was not a good penalty to take if you're Vincent Trocheck here. Then, later in the second period, you've got Panarin going to the penalty box with a hold. And this is a situation where the Blue Jackets are trying to keep the puck in the Rangers zone. They're running out of real estate here. And, Panarin, I thought, played another pretty good defensive game. He had a steal of a puck in this game that led to a Ranger goal. And in this case here, he was pressuring the defenseman at the blue line. Defenseman didn't have a lot of room to operate. He pokes the puck away from him. They both go to retrieve the loose puck, which is now in the neutral zone. But Panarin kind of reaches out and grabs him by the shoulder a little bit. It's not much, but that is a hold. He got his hand on his shoulder there, and I think the right call was made. And had the hold not been called, it would have been a 2-on-1 for the Rangers. Panarin would have been leading the charge on a 2-on-1 rush, but I do think this is the right call. And you got to understand, situational hockey here. And again, it's very easy for me to say this watching from my couch and, obviously having a lot of time to think about what I just saw and analyze it. When they're out there playing hockey, everything's happening in a matter of seconds or less than a matter of seconds, milliseconds even. So, yeah, it's a bad penalty. I get what Panarin was trying to do there. He sees an opportunity. He's trying to get to the puck first. He's trying to lead a 2-on-1 into the zone. But, it's late in the second period. At this point, the Rangers are up 4-2. Don't take this kind of a risk here. Don't take the risk of the referee calling a penalty against you just to get an odd man rush, especially when your team is winning. It's one thing if maybe you're down 4-2 in that situation, and, you need a goal and you're pressing a little bit, and maybe I can get away with this. Maybe I can just reach out, grab this guy for a second, and they won't call it. At least there, if you're trailing, you can understand taking that risk. And again, it's hard for Panarin, I'm sure, to process all these things in just a couple of milliseconds here. He's just trying to make a play, so I get it to a degree, but it's still not a good penalty. You're leading. You seem to have retaken control of this game. Don't breathe life back into your opponents by taking a penalty that you just don't need to take here. This is the only defensive zone penalty that the Rangers took, and even this one was completely unnecessary. So then we go to the fourth penalty, the fourth and final penalty that the Rangers took in this game. And this was actually right after the Rangers killed off the Panarin penalty, because when Panarin took his penalty, it was late in the second period. It carried into the third period, and the Rangers eventually killed it off. But this couldn't have been more than maybe like 30 seconds to 45 seconds after that penalty was killed off. You've got Chris Kreider taking another, just completely unnecessary penalty here. He high sticks his guy in the offensive zone. It was actually bordering on a cross check. Kreider really got him up high with his stick, and he goes to the penalty box for this. And again, this just can't happen. You've got three veteran players combining for four completely unnecessary, completely undisciplined penalties. And I'm willing to just kind of chalk this up as the Rangers having a little bit of an off night. They just weren't as razor sharp as you'd like them to be. And on one hand, hey, if you can be at this level and not be at your best and not be completely sharp, and you still find a way to beat your opponent by 4 goals, all right, you got to give them at least a point or two for that, but this is not a trend that can continue. You can't have anybody on your team, much less 3 of the leaders and 3 of the veteran players, just taking foolish, unnecessary penalties like this. That has to be a point of emphasis for the Rangers going forward, and I'd like to see that start this Thursday against the Devils, because again, a playoff matchup between these two teams seems likely. Let's not let them go to work on their power play and get everything working there, because the Devils, they can hurt you. They got a lot of guys that can put the puck in the net, and you can't be taking unnecessary penalties. And I would like to think that the Rangers, hopefully they win the game. That's first and foremost. But I like to think that maybe they can set a little bit of a tone for the potential upcoming playoff series between these two teams. And that kind of leads me into talking about the Devils real quick and this matchup against the Devils. So to do a quick standings check in the Metro Division, you've got the Carolina Hurricanes currently in first place. They have 103 points in 73 games. The Canes have a game in hand on both the Devils and the Rangers. Second place right now, you've got the Devils. They have 100 points in 74 games. And then you've got the Rangers in third place. They've got 98 points in 74 games. So the Rangers right now technically control their own destiny as far as second place is concerned, because the Rangers and Devils, they each right now have 34 regulation wins, and that would be the tiebreaker if they end up finished with the same amount of points at the end of the regular season. So if the Rangers beat the Devils in regulation on Thursday, in what will be the final regular season matchup between these two teams, then the Rangers and Devils at that point will both be tied with 100 points in 75 games, and the Rangers would then have 35 regulation wins to the Devils' 34 regulation wins. You got all that? So the bottom line, the Rangers right now, for the first time in, kind of a long time, they actually control their own destiny as far as finishing second place in the Metro Division and getting themselves home ice advantage in the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, which I think can be important at times. You don't want to overdo it. It's kind of a delicate balance at this time of the season, and this is something that we've debated on and off in the last handful of episodes of Locked On New York Rangers. You got to strike the right balance, because I think you want to keep competing. You got the Stanley Cup Playoffs in front of you, and I think, if you can get yourself home ice advantage, then, go for that. But by that same token, you can't worry about seeding and home ice advantage to the point that you're getting your guys injured and making them play through things that they maybe shouldn't be playing through. There might be a couple of players that could use a scratching late in the season here, just a game to get a little bit of a breather. But by that same token, I do think it would be nice to have home ice advantage in the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And Patrick Kane actually weighed in on that, and I got a quote from him in my phone here. He mentioned this after the game last night. He was talking about playing the Devils and the upcoming playoffs and everything. And this is what Kane had to say. MSG is an amazing place to play. It's a big advantage to have home ice. We have it in front of us if we do what we need to do. And so Patrick Kane, not only, first of all, is he very aware of exactly where the Rangers are in the playoff standings and what they need to do as far as getting home ice and, what the situation is, but he also seems to believe that, it can be very important. And I think Patrick Kane would know. He's the 3-time Stanley Cup champion, and he's the guy that's played 136 career Stanley Cup playoff games. It's like I said, it's a delicate balance because you want to get as good of a seeding as you can, but not to the detriment of your team's health. And so, we'll see how the Rangers play it down the stretch here. You can't take your foot off the gas too much. You can't treat the remaining games like it's meaningless exhibition games, because then you're not going to be ready to go and ready to compete under the bright lights of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I also understand wanting to make sure your guys stay healthy. So, like I said, very, very, very delicate balance, and we'll see how the Rangers look to play it down the stretch here. But that will pretty much do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY and _Rangers. And also, make sure to subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen game-to-game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.